So what I want to do is hopefully I can share my screen. I believe I can share my screen. And I want to tell you briefly about our program and show you where to go to look at our program more in depth. So you can learn about the classes we teach and the concentrations we offer and the work that we do. So I'm going to do that briefly, and then I'm going to turn it over. I invited two students to share something about their experience, some slice of their experience at Shepherd. One of these students is Madison Hale, and she is not an environmental studies major, but she's an adopted environmental studies major, and she has been very involved with the environmental studies program academically through her global studies major, but also SEO, Shepherd Environmental Organization. And then the second student is Bella. She is a soon-to-be graduated environmental studies major, and she is also very involved with SEO. So I'll turn it over to them in a minute. Well, more than a minute, but not too long. And okay. So you go to the Shepherd website, and it's not too hard to navigate, but if you want to find environmental studies, you can click future students or current students or faculty and staff. Anywhere you'll find, well, I guess actually future students isn't the best place. Current students works, and there will be a link for colleges, schools, and departments. And here is Department of Environmental and Physical Sciences. So I've tried to create this website to make it convenient for current students and prospective students to find information. So there's a whole page dedicated to prospective students. Photos, I'll show you more of those later. There's a link down here where prospective students can learn more about what we offer. And of course, there's lots of other information here for you to explore, including some quotes from pioneers of the environmental movement in their own words. So if you click on prospective students, you'll see a description of what environmental studies is. And if I were to describe environmental studies in one sentence, it would be that environmental studies is concerned with studying the interactions between humans and our environments. And when people hear environments, they think of natural environments, but in our program, and I think increasingly so, we're also concerned with human made environments or built environments. And that includes agricultural systems, but also urban environments and suburban environments as well. So our program is very interdisciplinary because of that. Environmental studies is, I think, arguably the most interdisciplinary program on the entire campus. You get a sense of that when you look at, if you scroll down here a little more, you see a summary of our curriculum. And it's organized here by, here's the comprehensive major. And so I call that the straight environmental studies major. But we also have a host of what are called concentrations. And really this is a lot to do with individual preference. Students who might have an interest in pursuing a career in, let's say, the Park Service, they might feel compelled or drawn to our concentration in sustainable resource management. But what I've done is for each of these programs, for each of these academic programs, created a program flyer that goes along with it. And so if you click the flyer, it's a summary of the academic program. And all of these flyers will be laid out about the same, where you'll have a selection of courses which are called core courses or required courses that students have to take. And all of our students start in our Foundations in Environmental Science sequence, which is a 2-semester lab science sequence devoted to, it's an introduction to environmental science. And then when you scroll down, you'll see that the curriculum is divided. I call these the spheres of environmental studies. And here you can really you can really vividly see how interdisciplinary it is. Our students are required to take a foundational science sequence, and they have an option. They can pursue semesters in biology, semesters in chemistry, or semesters in physics. And it's up to the students. And then in these menus, there's a menu for environmental earth systems, courses in geology, atmospheric science, oceanography, soil science. Environmental biology is courses like forestry, wildlife management, integrated pest management, and courses that focus on specific kinds of organisms. Environmental physical sciences is courses like energy and hydrology, the study of how water flows across the surface and underground, and sustainable development, which includes things like building practices. Environmental technology, and we're going to be adding more courses to this category probably in the coming years. Geographic information systems is a course I teach. It's focused on, actually I teach both of these courses. It's focused on using computer mapping technology to study environmental problems. And then over here, environmental studies, you look at this layout and you get the sense that at Shepherd, environmental studies is very science intensive, very science heavy, and that's definitely true. We are, science is a very important part of what we do, probably the most important part of what we do. But environmental studies includes aspects of the social sciences and the humanities, and that's a part of our major as well. So students in our all of our concentrations, not just this straight environmental studies comprehensive major, will take courses in that are related to history or policy or ethics or geography or Appalachian culture. So there's a lot of options in this area. But again, circling back around, this is one of the reasons why I feel like our major is the most interdisciplinary major on campus. There's nothing that really comes close to it, in the sense that we span all of the traditional branches of the sciences, but also reach into the humanities and social sciences. So I'll stop there for a moment, and I want to turn it over to, let's start with Madison. So again, Madison Hale is I believe she's a soon-to-be graduating student, and she's been very involved with SEO. So what I've asked her to do is share a little slice of her experience, and the point of this is to help you visualize what your experience might be like should you decide to come to Shepherd. So Madison.
All right, hi. Yes, you were right. I'm a senior, kind of a super senior, but I'm happy to still be here at Shepherd. And I am a global studies major with a concentration in environments. And I decided that I was just kind of going to share a summary of my experience here at Shepherd, because there really wasn't one particular moment that I could think of that stood out to me. My whole experience here has been really, really formative and life-changing. So I wanted to start by mentioning that on the books, I came to Shepherd as a transfer student, but I was kind of a college dropout. I took a couple years off after having a hard time in community college, and during that time, I found a passion for the environment, and I was living in Shepherdstown, and I found Shepherd's environmental studies program just because I was curious about the local universities, offerings, and I literally sat and read through the entire course programs and descriptions for each course and was like, oh my gosh, these sound all so cool. And so I signed up, I enrolled, and immediately declared environmental studies as my major, and I took ENVS 201, which is the introductory course Dr. Groff was mentioning, and I was immediately so excited to be there. The department chair at the time, Dr. Matthews, was my professor, and I was really excited to be in her course because everything she talked about were things that I was super passionate about. And I couldn't help but comment on just about every slide that she showed. So I was just thrilled to finally feel like I could be surrounded by people who cared about the environment as much as I did. And pretty early in the semester, she told us about SEO, the environmental organization, which I joined just in hopes to meet some like-minded people and maybe get into some environmental activism on campus. And little did I know that first meeting that I walked in and introduced myself, I would soon become president of the organization for 2 years and also meet one of my now best friends. So I had, during my time with SEO and being a part of the environmental studies program, I got to gain so many new skills. Being the president, I gained a lot of leadership skills, and I really was able to not just think about global problems, but actively research and kind of take action on them through my classes and then through the organization. I got to give a lot of public speeches, which was really new for me. I was a terrified public speaker before then. Even something like this would have terrified me before all of this. And now I'm happy to do anything like this. I created and implemented so many environmentally conscious events on campus, and I made multiple lifelong connections, which I think is one of my favorite takeaways from Shepherd because it's such a small campus. I've been able to make both professional and personal connections that I think will be lifetime. So that's really important aspect of my time here. I've also been very immersive. I've had the opportunity to work, study, and volunteer at Tabler Farm, which is the university's farm, where there's a new sustainable agriculture program that's evolving, and which is something I'm very passionate about. So I've been wanting to help it thrive since the beginning, and this has been a huge way to connect me to the environmental program and give me sort of an action that I feel like is making a difference in the community. So even though I ended up switching my major to global studies, because I personally prefer social sciences, but I get to still mix in all the environmental studies into it, I find that I'm still the passionate environmental activist that I was when I enrolled in Shepherd originally, except now I've gained so much knowledge and experience through my time here that I feel confident to graduate as an individual who can make positive and meaningful contributions to the environmental movement, especially knowing that I've already have accomplished so much here as a student. Yeah, so that's just kind of a summary of my experience.
Thank you, Madison. That was fantastic. I should note that Madison was a recipient of one of our student service awards last year, leadership award, sorry, a leadership award last year. And she mentioned Tabler Farm. I will show you some pictures a little bit in a little bit and talk a little bit more about Tabler Farm and how excited we are for what's going on out there. But yeah, Madison's been very, you've worked a lot out there, and with Dr. Vila, and we've made tremendous progress out there. Thanks, Madison. So
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Bella is next. Bella, do you got a video camera? So Bella is an environmental studies major and a soon-to-be graduated environmental studies major. And I've invited her because, like Madison, she's been very engaged with SEO. um, in the recent past. So, but now, both of these students are near the end of their experience at Shepherd, and I asked her the same thing: share a slice of your experience that helps prospective students visualize what their experience at Shepherd may be like. So Bella, it's all yours.
Okay, so I'm Bella Vegetti, as he just stated. My major at Shepherd is environmental science, with especially in aquatics. So the academic comment market scholarship that was mentioned earlier, I actually have that. So if you're interested in it, it does exist. It's awesome. I am a senior with intentions to graduate in December. So I'm really excited about that. Made it through my 4 years, actually graduating a semester early still. Um, as asked to share some of my most memorable and favorite experiences at Shepherd, it was really hard to like narrow this down because I've been through so many classes and stuff. But I would have to say the best classes that I've had are probably some of the hardest classes that I've had. And it might seem overwhelming at first, but it's really nothing to get discouraged about because you end up learning like so much in the end. So it's definitely worth it. But it's really hard. It was really hard to pick two classes that I really liked, but I kind of just summarized two. The first one I did was hydrology. So I just want to focus on like the trips that we went on. And I have like pictures and stuff. I'm not sure if I can share my screen. It'll just like give you a brief view of like what we saw and what we did. But like the hydrology trip, we actually ended up driving 3.5 hours ish to Perkins, West Virginia, which I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with. And we stayed down there for a night and we camped out. And I don't know how cool it is to sound to somebody. You get to go camping with your professor in the middle of the woods. But I thought that was it's a really fun experience. And then the next day and part of that day, we ended up traveling around the Monongahela National Forest, and we completely like learned about the watershed. And it was such a neat experience. And we also went there for another class I took. It was conservation ecology, and we got to see more of the forest and see the virgin forest and the pine trees, and it's a lot prettier in person, and it's so pretty. Let me see. He said I could share my screen. So I've never shared my screen before, so bear with me for a second. Is it sharing? Awesome. Okay, so that was my other trip. This is the trip I ended up going on for hydrology. These are just some pictures that were taken. I think everybody's pictures are in here, so I think a couple students are in here. Maybe they're just mine, I'm not sure. But as you can see, we totally just went camping in the middle of the woods, which is such a fun experience. Let me go through a couple more pictures, just see how pretty it was down the watershed and stuff. I can't remember what this river is called. And we ended up, this is in the middle of Perkins. There was some high school parade, but it was such a neat experience to go down and see. And we talked about the watershed. That's Dr. Vila standing next to a watershed sign. And just look at the different things down there. Some pictures other students took. The weirs, this is a dam, actually. This is full of water, which was crazy. And there's an experimental forest in the Monongahela. So there was a woman there, I forget her name, but she took us through and kind of gave us a tour of the forest and stuff. But it was definitely a neat experience, super fun. The other trip I went on is oceanography. So I have tons and tons of pictures because this was actually a 4-day trip to Wachapreague, Virginia. And we got to go out on a boat every day. And just everything you learn in class, it makes so much more sense when you get to like go do it in person and put your hands on it. I'm such a hands-on learner that like this was a great experience. Like you learn all this stuff in class and then you go out and you like take the samples and you do the things. You're like, oh my gosh, it makes sense. Like it clicks. So I would 100% recommend it. And I don't know how many other majors get to go on fun field trips, but we wake up at 5 a.m. every morning just because we wanted to go see the sunrise on the water. It was so pretty. One of the coolest parts about Wachapreague is we went into the VIMS, which is Virginia Institute of Marine Science Laboratory, and we got to use their lab, which was gorgeous. And it's like a wet lab, so it has like water from the ceiling. That's what these crazy looking things are. And there's Dr. Vila, there's all the students just studying the different things that we had found throughout the days. I have a couple pictures of the different things. Here's a little flounder. I don't know if it'll load, but it's just him opening and closing his mouth. But I just have so many pictures and so many memories from doing these things. And like, you don't just like learn all these, like, you learn so much, but you make like these great connections with these students because you have to stay with them. And then you just like, you know, you bond over things. And I still have friends that want to go, we're going to go harass Dr. Vila again and go on his trips again, just because it was so much fun. But here's all like just little neat things. We found this teeny tiny hermit crab, super cute. And like what we got to study, it's great. It was so much fun. I keep saying that, I know. How do I end sharing this thing up here? So I would definitely recommend it. That was all like the experiences that I've had. I mean, there's definitely more, and it's so many to talk about that I would be here forever showing you pictures because I love taking pictures. Currently, experience-wise, I'm actually working on Tabler Farm right now, doing a research credit with Dr. Vila. I'm helping him breed fish, was just tilapia, and now I'm working on, I believe, bluegill sunfish, and we're working on his aquaponics system, which come check out. I'm sure there's pictures somewhere. It's super cool. It's making a lot of progress.
I'm gonna show some pictures.
Do you have pictures? Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know internships were brought up a lot, and in the messages we were talking earlier, I've actually had really great experiences with internships. I worked for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. I ended up doing my capstone on that. I did oyster reef restoration and collected a lot of data from that, which was great. And then I ended up working this summer for the city of Martinsburg. I used GIS, which I'm not sure if anybody's interested in, Geographic Information Systems. And I did points of trees throughout Martinsburg. We did an urban tree canopy to see what was happening with the stormwater runoff. And then I also did stormwater infrastructure and marking where like manholes were and stuff. So definitely using my education out in the field definitely comes in handy in internships. It's definitely going to be used. That's all I really have to say on experience wise. It's definitely been a good experience. I'm excited to graduate this December though.
Well, thank you, Bella. Yeah, I had Bella in the capstone class in the spring, and I learned a lot about oyster spat.
Yes, oyster spat.
Well, thank you, Bella. And she mentioned internships, and we we encourage it greatly. It's one of the things that really helps you figure out what you want to do after you graduate, and helps place you post graduation. And the internship actually, we try to our best to help students find internships. We have lots of connections in the area with many different laboratories and government facilities and state parks, national parks, Harpers Ferry. And when they have opportunities, they send them to us and we relay them on to students, encourage them to apply. So thank you, Bella. And you can feel free to duck out now if you want.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen again. And what I wanna do, not that. Okay, back to the website here. So if you scroll down more on the prospective students page, you'll find descriptions of many of our facilities, including the GIS laboratory, the Aquaponics Laboratory, which where Bella is working right now out at Tabler Farm. And I'll show you some. So aquaponics is growing fish in tanks and growing vegetables without soil. The sustainability site out behind the building where we have a demonstration scale solar panels, and actually at the farm, at Tabler Farm, we have solar panels as well, which is powering a lot of this operation. These fish tanks, pumps, and LED grow lights. So you can read about these things, and I know reading about it versus seeing it is very different. where is it? Here it is. So I would highly recommend this. If you're interested in Shepherd at all, follow us, follow our department on Instagram. It's Shepherd Environment. And, you know, what better way to, you know, I kind of think of this as, I don't know, it's kind of like VIP access to what's going on. I'm usually the one posting. I haven't posted much in the last few months, but that will start to accelerate again. And it's like, for example, I made a few posts today. This is some pictures. This is a former student commenting here. Pictures of the Aquaponics lab where Bella is working. Here's a big 1,000 gallon tank. This is we're going to do vertical agriculture here, and then we got float trays over here for growing mostly lettuce over here. But the idea of aquaponics is you grow fish in tanks and soil and vegetables without soil, but the fish provide nutrients for the plants, and the plants purify the water for the fish. The goal is to make it as self-contained as possible, with as little amount of inputs as possible. There's a lot to study in here, and this used to be. This is the outside of that building. It used to be a milking parlor at Shepherd's Tabler Farm, and a dilapidated building that we renovated. And I wish I had a picture of the before, what this looked like. Those might be some of Bella's fish. So, you know, this is another interesting project. I'm usually working on 1 or 2 research projects at any given time, and this is one of the research projects that me and Dr. Veal are working on. This is Town Run. It's a spring-fed creek that runs through Shepherdstown, and what we're doing here is we built an off-grid, solar-powered water quality monitoring system that is gathering data about the physical characteristics of the water: temperature, turbidity, conductivity. And then I created a web app that makes this available to the world. So I'm still working out the bugs, but if it's loading, here it comes. It's like this dashboard showing the condition of the water there in Shepherdstown. Temperature, so this is 7:51 p.m. tonight, so that's 2 minutes ago. More or less real-time data readout for temperature, pH, turbidity, dissolved oxygen, specific conductivity, oxidation reduction potential. And so I think of this as an experiment in environmental transparency. The idea is I want to make data about this water resource in Shepherdstown publicly available, so people in town know what their community is doing to the water. And not that they're doing anything too bad, but it'll be interesting to see if you click on the historical button, you know, something like turbidity. We're getting some interesting signals here in the turbidity data. Like there's this big spike. And so at this point, we're not sure if that's real or if it's some problem with the system. But what could cause that? Could be caused by a fish swimming by. We're not sure, but we got a lot to study there. So that's a cool project that I'm working on. I also, I'm a beekeeper. So I have a couple of research projects that I'm doing with honeybees, including studying how they build their comb. And I'm sort of forcing them to consider different geometries besides hexagons by 3D printing substrate for them to build on. So these pictures, a lot of these pictures are from Tabler Farm. There's a baby praying mantis, not at the farm. Here's looking for, so here's the solar panels after we installed them at Tabler Farm, which is powering the aquaponics system. There's Dr. Vila. And, you know, so there's just, you know, a lot. Here's a picture of me with my students at Yellowstone a few summers ago. We went to Yellowstone in Grand Teton for 9 days and camped and hiked and just had a great time. There's lots of pictures on here from Yellowstone and Grand Tetons. So there, like Bella, there we are camping in a national forest in the middle of Idaho. No. Yep, Idaho, sorry. Here we are at the airport. Look at that happy group. I gotta show you, here's some hot springs. And yeah, this is just one of my favorite pictures ever. There's this alpine meadow in the end of July and just wildflowers galore. And here's one of our students who just graduated walking off into the wilderness. And if you knew this student, you would realize that that sort of encapsulates her life. She's a really cool person. Me sharing my bees with a bunch of kids in the library. We take, you know, we do not just these grand trips, but we do trips around the area. This is a group of students I took to a material recovery facility called Ensorga here in Martinsburg. And what they do is they're turning tons and tons of trash into an alternative fuel source that's displacing coal consumption at a local concrete or a cement manufacturing facility. This is the solar array on top of our library that I wrote a grant with one of the librarians to get this. When this was built, this was the largest solar array by a nonprofit in the entire state of West Virginia. And you know, you got pictures in here of us digging holes and students helping out. We have done a lot at the farm that, you know, involves getting dirty, and there's never a lack of things to do. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that Shepherd environment, follow, look at the pictures, look at the students, little behind the scenes view of what's going on at Shepherd University. Just one more thing, there's some other links over here on our webpage. You click explore. I like to put little projects that I worked on the webpage here. Like here's a project. This was a trip with students 4 or 5 years ago, and we took a hydrothermal camera, or we took a thermal camera to Yellowstone, and we recorded thermal images of the geysers in the hot springs. And this is actually a movie in infrared of Old Faithful erupting. So just fun things on here to explore. You can read about the applications of UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. We use these increasingly for data, acquiring data. They're an important tool for studying vegetative cover, land use, precision agriculture. And this drone right here is belongs to Dr. Seidel Murphy, and it's a $20,000 drone, and that camera, multispectral camera, is probably another $10,000. So really expensive piece of equipment, but they were able to use this piece of equipment to try to solve a crime. I think I'll just leave it at that. They were asked by the sheriff's department to try to solve a crime. And that was an interesting little project they worked on. You can read about sustainable agriculture and see some more pictures from Tabler Farm. And we, you know, in the growing season, we have a lot of fresh veggies for the taking. Even, you know, when we get the Aquaponics lab up, we'll have vegetables probably throughout the year, growing stuff in there in a controlled environment. Just one more thing. Graduate profiles. This is a little endeavor I started there's my favorite picture again, last year. And no, there's only one here. I guess there's something wrong here. I have a couple of these graduate profiles, and the reason I'm doing this is, I want to be able to share what our graduates are doing after they graduate. So this is, the goal is to do these profiles of students who are a couple years out, and they can tell, share their story. What about the Shepherd experience that they find most useful and for their career and what they're doing now. So anyway, the place to learn about Shepherd or about our program is the website. That's the starting place. And follow us on Instagram. So thanks for joining us tonight.